Too many people associate retirement with the end.
I figure it'll be a little bit of a transition to try to slow down a little bit.
The number one question I have about retirement is having enough money to last.
In my mind, you start to look at it, that's an opportunity to do more of the things you want when you want to do it.
Make it financially able to do things that I enjoy.
Party.
Just financial security and enjoy my family.
More people need to go into it with their eyes wide open, understanding what is my plan, what do I want to do, and then how am I going to get there?
Will the rules change?
I have no real specific plan.
I'm planning for what the status is right now. I just hope it doesn't change drastically.
Welcome to the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona. In retirement, it's all about income. And today, you'll hear ideas, concepts, and strategies designed specifically to generate reliable retirement income. Now, here's the host of the RetireTastic Show, JoAnn Regan.
Today I'm going to talk about the phases of retirement. I don't know about you, but I like to think that retirement is 30 years of enjoying myself. No alarm clocks, more travel, more peace of mind, when in fact, there's actually so much more to it than that.
What is this? My freshman philosophy professor assigned this exercise in forward thinking. He called it a bucket list. We were supposed to make a list of all the things we wanted to do in our lives before we
kick the bucket. Cutesy. Help a complete stranger for the good. Laugh until I cry. Drive a Mustang Shelby, not bad. I got one. All right. How about skydiving?
Kiss the most beautiful girl in the world? How do you propose doing that?
Volume. You think 45 years went by fast? We got a real opportunity here. We can lay around here, or we can put some moves on.
If you haven't seen that movie, The Bucket List, I would highly suggest it. If you have, maybe it's time to see it again. You see, retirement isn't just a 30 to 35 year span of time that's equally the same year after year. It happens in phases. I've briefly talked about those phases before, and we're going to spend some time today talking about them. The phases are the GoGo years, the Slogo years, and the NoGo years. So welcome to the RetireTastic Show, powered by the Retirement Income Store, and thanks for joining me. I'm JoAnn Regan, your host, where my goal is to help you have a fantastic retirement. So my primary goal on the show today is to show baby boomers how to never run out of money. And there are really two ways of investing your money. One way is what I refer to as the performance-driven portfolio. Performance-driven is probably what you should have built up to those years of retirement. It's the maximum performance that you can get. And actually, if the market dips and you're in the 500 S&P fund, who cares? You're buying shares cheaper. It's all about performance, the accumulation of shares. But when you hit those retirement years, granted, performance is actually very important, but you want to outpace inflation. And what's really important is purpose. And when I say purpose, I mean things like, do you want to travel? Do you want to spend time with your grandkids? Speaking of which, I just had a new granddaughter. Her name is Haley, and I'm so excited to welcome her to our family. But also, a lot of people think that retirement is 30 years of golf, cruising, tennis, and line dancing. It is always happy hour somewhere, but like I said, that's really not true. So let's talk a little bit about phase one. Phase one is the GoGo years. These are the years that you're spending money typically. Every day is happy hour somewhere. These are the years where you want to have a lot of money, but you want to be getting a lot of income from your money. And you probably are going to cut into the principal in these years. You have to watch that. Cutting into principal is okay, but wouldn't it make sense to be getting an income off of your portfolio to where you're not having to do that? These are also the years that recreational vehicles are popular, going on international trips. I'd venture to say that if you took an average age on a river cruise, it would probably be a lot of people in this age group. You really have to watch cutting into your principal in this stage because it works like a mortgage in the reverse at 60 and 65. You know how a mortgage works, or any loan for that matter? When you take a mortgage or a loan out, you pay almost all of the interest up front and very little interest in the tail end of the loan. In the last 3 or 4 years, you're probably paying all principal. Flip that thing on its head and it's exactly the same. You take a little bit of money out, but it has a massive compounding effect for those later years, those no-go years that can get really expensive. If you're curious how you can establish a portfolio where you're not cutting into principal, where you're eating the eggs and not the chicken, if that's a concern of yours, I'd love to hear from you. I have a commission report called Guide to Aging. It's called Guide to Aging, and it's free of charge and covers in depth many of the items I'm talking about on today's program. And if you'd like the companion piece to this program, let me know and I'll email it to you, or I can mail it to you if that's how you want it. So to receive this report, Guide to Aging, be one of the first 5 callers at 1-800-FSG-7890, and I'll either mail or email that right out to you. That report is called Guide to Aging. You're listening to the RetireTastic Show, and I'm JoAnn Regan, and today we're talking about different phases of retirement. We're talking about the GoGo, the Slogo, and the NoGo years. Let's talk a little bit more about those GoGo years. These are the years that you want to know how to take Social Security and when to take it. If you do spousal benefits, how do you do that? Let me tell you something that we do for our clients. We actually have a Social Security software where we can tell you the strategy that will work best for you. This is the time frame where you have to make choices, and you kind of want to have those choices in the bag a couple of 3 years before this time frame. This is also the time frame that you really want to start watching for major market dips. Let me give you an example. If you go through history, you're going to find some very consistent patterns. The market dips, and when it takes a major dip, that dip will probably last typically 6 to 8 years from peak to peak. When you are 30, that gives you 6 to 8 years to get a really good price on the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or something like that. However, if you're 2 years out from retirement and you have $1 million saved, you're figuring, what, a 4% return, that's $40,000 a year out there. Get $50,000 a year out of Social Security between the two of you, and you're at $90,000 a year, but you only need $70,000, so you're in good shape. So the last thing you need is a major market correction, because you're not buying shares, and if you are, you aren't buying that many. What you're doing is you're getting ready to pull out money, because as I said, it's all about the income in these years that are so critically important. So here's a quick question for you. Is your gut telling you, have you been thinking about the next couple of years prior to retirement that something is not quite right in the market? It's been running up fine. We've been making a lot of money, but something is just not right. It's this quantitative easing. It seems like every time that stimulus package goes through, the market goes up again. But is it real? When was the last time you listened to your gut and it led you wrong? Your gut feeling is actually telling you right. A lot of false stimulus money is holding up this whole market. What that means, I do believe, is we are getting ready for a correction. And I think a correction longer than what we had in 2020. Now, for the younger people listening in, that's great news. However, for those of you that are 2 to 3 years from retirement or are actually in retirement, this is not a good thing. The last thing you need to see is that $1 million turn into $600,000. All of a sudden, you're getting $24,000 a year instead of $40,000 a year. So how do you avoid another major market turndown? Well, I have a book that I'm sure you're going to find a good read. It's titled Now or Never by Dee Carter. And in this book, Dee talks about the need to take a serious look at how you are set up for retirement. Are you following methods from the 80s and 90s that will no longer work in the 20s? And the way to get a hold of this book is to reach out to me at 1-800-FSG-7890. Be one of the first 5 callers, and I'll let you know how to get a free copy of this book. It's Now or Never. Up next, we're going to talk about the Slogo years and some of the major things you need to plan for those years. So you probably thought that retirement consisted of 30 to 35 years of bliss, peace, and relaxation. And let me tell you, it comes in phases. Again, it's the GoGo, the Slogo, and the NoGo years are what you're looking forward to. The GoGo years typically run from about age 60 to about 75. And here's the point I made in the first part of the show. That major market correction could take 6 to 7 years, and you only get 10 to 15 years in the GoGo years. You're giving up a major portion of the fun part of your retirement, and that's why you have to plan ahead. In the Slogo years, you can still do the things that you did in the GoGo years. You just kind of don't want to anymore. You've done a lot of things. You're slowing down. These are the years that you have to be thinking about long-term care, because these years, and especially coming up in the NoGo years, can get really expensive. So what do I mean? The average cost of a nursing home today is about $6,000 a month. The average stay is about 4 years. What about a nursing home for Alzheimer's? The average stay for Alzheimer's is 8 years and $80,000. That could completely destroy a portfolio. There is a type of government health care, so to speak, that will pay for nursing homes, and it's called Medicaid, but you have to be broke to be on Medicaid. You have to go through all your money in what's called a Medicaid spend down. And that means you have to spend all of your assets to a very minimal amount that you really can't live on in order for Medicaid to kick in. Then all of a sudden you lose the ability to make your own decisions. You don't get to pick the nursing home. You don't get to pick whether or not you have a roommate. You don't get to pick the type of care that you get. That's why pre-planning with a quality long-term care policy is critically important. I don't want to spend this whole show on this, but let me tell you, there are two kinds of long-term care insurance. There's asset-based care, meaning it's built on life insurance and on that type of a chassis. Then there's health insurance-based long-term care that's based on a health insurance policy. The problem with the health insurance policy type is that it's going to go up in price. They go up in price darn near every single year, and the life type doesn't go up in pricing. The underwriting is completely different. The biggest benefit is if you can afford it now, you can afford it later. The health insurance type, if you can afford it now, they may smoke you out at about age 80 to 85 with the rising of premiums, and that's when you need it the most. Now, if you are unsure about what type you have, or if you're unsure if you even have it, you're unsure about the difference between the two types, well, that's what I'm talking about on today's program. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll gladly help you take a look at your situation and what may be best for you. And as an added bonus, I have a commission report that I can email you called the Income Generation Report. That's right, the Income Generation Report. And that'll help you to start the process of ensuring that your life's work will produce income during your retirement. Give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890. I'll be right back.
This is the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona. Have you missed any of today's program? No problem. You can hear all of the RetireTastic Show online anytime, 24/7 at yourfsg.com. That's YOURFSG.com.
Investing in the stock market these days is like riding a roller coaster. 1 minute you're moving up slow and steady just the way you like it, and then all of a sudden, your investment portfolio is in a free fall, up 800 points, down 800 points. It can be very scary. A lot of people no longer gamble with their retirement in the stock market. If you are tired of the ride and want to look at safer options or would like to learn a better way to grow your money during these times,
call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com. Welcome back to the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona.
So welcome back to the RetireTastic Show, and I'm your host, JoAnn Regan.
What is this?
My freshman philosophy professor assigned this exercise in forward thinking. He called it a bucket list. We were supposed to make a list of all the things we wanted to do in our lives before we
kick the bucket. Cutesy. Help a complete stranger for the good. Laugh until I cry. Drive a Mustang Shelby, not bad. I got one. All right. How about skydiving?
Kiss the most beautiful girl in the world? How do you propose doing that?
Volume. You think 45 years went by fast? We got a real opportunity here. We can lay around here, or we can put some moves on.
I hope everyone listening today has a bucket list, but you're going to need income to make that work. That's why we talk about it week after week on the show. And today we're talking about the 3 phases of retirement: the GoGo years, the Slogo years, and the NoGo years. On the first part of today's show, I talked about the GoGo years being the years that you're probably going to be taking money out of principal and the years that you really have to watch for a major market correction. The Slogo years, you want to start thinking about long-term care in those years. I have a saying that if you're in that mode of people that really don't want to go downtown past 4:30 or 5, when you can't see in the dark at night, you might be in the Slogo years. These are the years that you start to see higher medical costs, and these are the years that you don't want to be digging into the principal because you might be using some of the principal for higher medical costs and inflation. I really hope we can get inflation under control. We're running at about 5.5 right now, and hopefully it won't go much higher than that, or you're going to have to cut into your principal. The Slogo years typically run from about 75 to 85. So during the GoGo years, many are thinking all retirement should be this way. This should be the way: fun, relaxation, good time. When in fact, it's really only about 10 or 15 years of your retirement. That's the early first years, the first 10 or 15 years. Then you go into the Slogo years, losing a little bit of your giddy up. You may not want to sit on that airplane for 12 to 15 hours or take that walking tour across Europe. You're also getting to a little bit more expensive retirement years. You may start to see those medical costs rising, and those medical costs may actually be more expensive than the trips and visits you took during your GoGo years. These, my friend, are the Slogo years. It's like the old saying, the mind is willing, but the body is weak. So what's coming up next? Yep, unfortunately, the NoGo years. So if you're wondering, am I really ready for these phases of retirement? Well, let me help you out with that. I have a commission report called The Guide to Aging, free of charge, and it covers in depth many of the items I'm talking about on today's program. So if you'd like to have that mailed or emailed to you, why don't you give me a call on the show at 1-800-FSG-7890. So let me tell you, you really want to be ready for those no-go years. You think you won't be spending much money, but we're going to be talking about how much money that it can actually cost you. I know you probably thought retirement was one big old long relaxing phase. You know, from being around your friends, it's not. What did I hear one person say? The golden years aren't so golden. I actually have people tell me all the time, don't get old. I don't know how they think that's going to happen. But anyway, we're talking about the no-go years, and it's in those years that you're going to need long-term care of some sort. Let me tell you a little bit about my dad. My dad was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in his 60s. And I have to tell you that during the first 10 years or so that he had it, really didn't notice that much. But as time went on, I could tell that more and more of my dad was fading. My dad was really feisty and really just boisterous and loud man that really had a good time in life and always had an opinion. And I watched him slowly fade down to someone who sat in a corner and didn't say much. All he did was watch. And I could see the fear in his eyes. Fortunately, my parents were prepared. My mom and dad had bought long-term care insurance, and they were able to have someone come in and help to take care of my mom and my dad. Mainly my dad had the Alzheimer's, but my mom was suffering from, just trying to take care of him and being tired. So as my dad's disease progressed and he ended up having to go into a nursing home because my mom couldn't take care of him anymore, I will tell you they were very fortunate. They did not have to spend down their retirement and they were able to make it through. But if you're not fortunate enough to have planned that well, let me tell you, the cost of the care and the cost of the nursing home facility was outrageous. And who in the world wants to have those no-go years last, especially if you need full-time care? These no-go years are the years where you're probably not leaving the building and you're not going to leave it ever, if you know what I mean. I said that the Slogo years is about long-term care. Let me tell you about the no-go years, life insurance. How much life insurance you carry into these no-go years makes a difference on how much money you can spend. And I say that if you haven't had the ability to get health-based long-term care insurance. You know how many go into these latter years thinking, I want to leave money for my kids? You can spend more if you went into retirement with the proper amount of life insurance. Earlier, I talked about two types of long-term care, asset-based care and health-based care. And I have news for you. Asset-based care does not go up in price, and it's built on a life insurance chassis. One of the biggest complaints people have about long-term care insurance, I am paying into it and I never get anything out of it. With asset-based care, there's 100% chance that it's going to pay out. It's either going to pay out in the way of long-term health care benefits, or it's going to pay out in a way of life insurance. If you're wondering if you have the right stuff to make it through these no-go years, I have a commission report, again, talked about it a couple of times already, The Guide to Aging. And it's a companion piece to this show, and I'd love to email it or mail it to you. Why don't you just let me know if you need it at 1-800-FSG-7890. So you're listening to the RetireTastic Show, and I'm your host, JoAnn Regan, and we're talking about the different phases of retirement. We talked about the GoGo years, which would be the first 10 to 15 years of retirement from about age 60 to 75. Then we talked about the Slogo years, which is about 75 to 85. And now 85 and on, the NoGo years. I want to let you know that there's a thing called custodial benefits through the VA. These are certain custodial benefits that a veteran can get, and very important that you look into them. And it can be quite nice if you qualify. And it means about $1,500 to $2,000 a month. This is also the phase that you really want to make sure that you have your life insurance intact. This is the time when estate planning becomes so important. If you have questions about what is best for you, whether you have a trust or a will, or if you need it updated, or if you need a beneficiary deed on your property, or even if you have your financial power of attorney for healthcare and finances, that is something I can handle for you. We do all of those things at our office at Financial Security Group of Arizona. And if any of those things are things that you need help with, please reach out to us. You've heard me mention it's not all about offense. Offense being growing the money. When you're in retirement or nearing retirement, it's about defense. And that's why I want to hand you that commission report again called The Importance of Financial Defense. Ask for it by name and I'll make sure to get it out to you. These last no-go years and the high cost of healthcare are the reasons you don't want to cut into the principal in your early go-go years because you might need that money. Again, at any point in this retirement phase, you don't want to see any major market corrections. It's all about the income that you can develop from your portfolio. That's why it's so important what your individual holdings are and that they pay interest and dividends, and so that you're kind of like eating the eggs and not the chicken. The bottom line, all these phases you need to plan ahead for. You may not really feel comfortable with the market the way it is now. It's been running really hot and you've made a lot of money. You're either getting close to the go-go years or maybe you're finding yourself in the slow-go or no-go years. You don't want to be eating that principal right now. Your gut is telling you that something's not quite right in your portfolio right now. And one thing I urge you to do is have a risk test done to your portfolio. I'll do that for you free of charge if you just give me a call. Well, that's all I have for this week. Thanks for listening. If you like the show and feel it has value, please tell a friend about me. I look forward to speaking with you off the air and again here next week. And if there's anything I can help you with, please give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890. Have a great week.
That's all the time we have for today. To speak with JoAnn off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. And for more information about our program, visit yourfsg.com. The RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan airs Saturday afternoons at 1 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. To speak with JoAnn off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com.
Investment advisory services offered by FSG Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the states of Arizona, Nevada, and California. Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm, is a sub-advisor of FSG Financial Services, Inc. FSG Financial Services, Inc. and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are not associated entities. FSG is a franchisee of the Retirement Income Store. The Retirement Income Store and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are associated entities.